So there were different things that we were trying to cover in this channel, right? One was payments that we always talk about, and then we also had some discussions around product side of the things, right? And why it's so important to have a sort of a product kind of a understanding, and what benefits do you have when you actually have your entire work broken down in a more of a product workbench style. And then obviously we were looking at certain things like uh, we were looking at certain things around capital markets as well, right? So that's another series that we are adding in, because some of the comments that I had on the channel were around capital markets, and people who are working in IT projects around capital markets, they also wanted some content around it. So I've got some experience into that as well, and I thought, okay, maybe I can create some content. So we made, so here we have got one playlist, right, which is around payment so far. Um, it covers cards and payment networks essentially, and payment networks. Then the second one is around um, product management. So we cover product ownership related aspects here, and this is where we will do some live streams as well in future. Hopefully next Sunday or Saturday we'll have this going. And then we also have got within capital markets, I posted some content around basics, basically, you know, the larger umbrella of investment banking, so to speak. So basics of investment banking. And then the idea was that we have, let me just see if I can also bring up the just a minute. Yeah, so what I will also do is I will bring up some of the content which will be around various asset classes. So fixed income is going to come. uh, I don't know if I should make videos on fixed income, or if the better thing to do would be to come live and then talk about this. Video gives you a chance to make it more structured. Live streams are more impromptu. So you know, if we create videos, then they'll be like 5 to 10 minutes videos each on these asset classes. I don't intend to um, cover, you know, extensive areas in detail about these asset classes. For instance, you know, like you have in CFAs and certifications like FRMs. No, that's not the intent. I first of all, I don't think, you know, we need to go into that level of detailing, particularly when it comes to implementing things in IT projects. So we'll be looking at things around fixed income, the technology part of it, right? That is one thing that I believe is important, because obviously we are talking about IT transformation projects. Then the second thing would be around equities, right? So we'll talk about equities as well. A lot of action happening in the markets today, right? Globally as well as in Asian markets, particularly in Indian markets. A lot of interesting things happening at the moment. So the equities is one another thing that I wanted to cover up. And then one basic session around derivatives, right? Or some videos, maybe, you know, small videos, 5 to 10 minutes each around derivatives, where we can talk about derivatives. We can talk about things like, you know, hedge funds, swaps, etc. Right? So so that's you know, so things like interest rate swaps, credit default swaps, and all of that stuff. Why do we want to cover these things? Because when you are working in projects, then whether you are working as a QA, whether you are working as a developer, or you are working as an IT project manager, you would be dealing with applications, right? So these applications would be uh, either in-house applications, which are developed by these banks or these brokerage firms themselves, right? So remember in the first video on investment banks, we talked about uh, the fact that we have got various entities. For instance, we have got an entity called as a brokerage firm. We have got an entity called as a bank. We have got asset managers. We have got investors, retail investors, HNIs, and so on and so forth. So the some of these applications, they are in-house developed because these banks do not want to um, buy any third-party applications. They want to have the full control over these applications, and tomorrow they want to restructure something, it's easy for them to do that. Then the second kind of applications that you would have is third-party applications. So wherein you would have some companies who would provide you the software, and they would give you a canned software. If it's a reporting software, they'll give you canned reports, for example, as we popularly call them as, right, canned reports. And what it basically means is that they will give you a default software which will give you access to the basic functionality, and on top of it, if you want to customize something, it's not straightforward because it's not open source. It's their own product, so it's like a black box for you. And if you need to do any modifications, to a certain extent you can do that, but then again they would have to send their own personnel to do that. They were their own software guys to do that. So that's basically about the applications which are third-party applications. And why do we want to cover the application side of it? Again, because we on this channel we do not cover only the domain part, we cover the technology part as well, and that's where I think this channel is different from the other channels which typically only talk about domain, or there are channels which only talk about technology, right? So it's more about the techno-functional aspects that we want to cover up on this channel. Then when we talk about these things, right, we also want to factor in the important aspects of data, right? 15-20 years back, when you were working in a project, in an IT project, for instance, which was into capital markets, you were talking about some Java application, right? If you were sitting in a production support environment, you would be looking into the server logs, doing a server restart if there is a failure, looking into the messaging queues like MQ and things like that. But over the period of time, what has also happened is that a lot of things have moved towards a data-driven approach, right? So there are a lot of challenges when it comes to handling these applications now, particularly around the data aspects. So what could be these kind of things? So there could be very, very simple things which were there initially as well, and exist today as well. Reason being that some of these big banks, they are not ready yet to completely change their approach, right? They are using systems which are 20, 15 years old, and they would still want to continue with those systems. So that is one thing. So we would have some of the things around the data issues. For instance, there could be a request coming in from the business for providing reports, manual reports, right? So that is about manual reports, wherein somebody would need to write a SQL, generate the report directly from the database and send it to the business users. It's a very, very common example of a data request that comes in. The second thing could be data issues, right? So wherein some issues happen within the data quality space, right? So there could be some nulls which are coming in on a field wherein you are not expecting a null, right? So for example, nulls, this is one thing. I'm just giving some example just to create that mental model around what are the kind of things that we want to talk about in future in the live streams, as well as in the videos, in the content that is going to come. So data issues is one thing. So nulls is one of the very very common use case when it comes to handling data issues, right? So we don't want to see nulls in the data, neither do we want to see nulls in the report. That is one thing. Data integrity issues. So data integrity issues is another thing where the users will come and say that the data is not looking correct to them, right? And that's a big red flag. We really don't want to report a data which is not correct, right? So that is another thing which we really want to take care of. Data issues is one of the most common aspects um, when it comes to uh, either a migration project where you are doing some legacy modernization, data modernization, right? Moving or data from one old system to a new system. More often than not, you would run into these data integrity issues. And I'll tell you out of my experience that despite the amount of work that you would spend to do the data mapping exercises, you would do all sorts of due diligence, creating data dictionaries, data artifacts. Still, you would run into these issues because some of these applications are so old and the logic is so convoluted and hidden that it's practically not possible for someone who's working into a 2 year, 3 year program to dissect and each and every aspect of the application, get the code out and convert that into a new format. So there are things which get missed, and you would realize these things only when these systems are then post the build completion phase. You're deploying them to higher environments for testing purposes or maybe in production sometimes. So that's another issue around data integrity that we want to talk about. And then the third thing which also happens around the data aspects is governance. Very, very important fact. We haven't talked about data governance much in this channel, but we would be covering in and making some videos on data governance as well, wherein basically what would happen is things around who can access the data, how do we control the access of data to the right people, uh, all those kind of things would be talked about, right? How do we make sure that the sensitivity of the data is being taken care of, which environments need to be paid attention to when they are storing data which is highly sensitive in nature, right? And what kind of sensitivity aspects do we need to take care of? So all those things. So essentially, right, if you see data governance, data storage, data design, all these things would fall under the larger umbrella of data management. And we haven't talked much about data management again, but I think that is one of the areas where we would be looking into. So that is pretty much what we talked about the data aspects here, right? And again, these things about data, data issues, nulls, integrity checks, governance, data management. This is something that we'll be talking not just for capital markets but also for payments, right? So we have covered a lot of. I think we have covered most of the basics around payments, as in how a payment application works, what are the different entities, how do these entities talk to each other. I think now it's the time to kind of take it to more of an in-depth insight approach, wherein we would be looking into these aspects around data. So I think that's pretty much it. And yeah, I think again these live streams would be there, wherein we would be talking about these areas. The idea is that we get some people from our members, from our subscribers, who would come and who would help us to drive these sessions as well, because they, like I said, if I just do all this scratching on Miro myself, then I don't think it's going to solve the purpose, and it's not going to make it more in, it's not going to, like, it'll not be that interesting. So the best is we get some people and then we will get it going. So I am in the process of talking to a few people, and I think you would have seen my community posts as well, where I'm trying to reach out to people and see if they can join me. The problem happens that on weekends typically people are busy, and even myself, for myself also it's difficult to find out time on weekdays for live streams. I can do it on weekends, and so getting into a sort of a mutually agreed time and all those things become a little difficult, and provided everybody's in a different time zone. But then nevertheless, I will still try to see if we can get these live streams up. In the next live stream, the plan was to create one Jira board with some of the features around a use case. There were a few use cases that I was thinking upon, and I will tell you what those use cases are. So one was about a typical simple scenario of a payment transaction that hits the switch, basically, right? So one payment transaction that happens, and how does it enter into your systems, and how do you then do the data enrichment, etc., and whatever things you want to do on top of it. Data enrichment, and then you store that. So that is another thing that was one of the use cases. The second was around the payment UI, wherein we look at a use case where we capture all of the details from a payment UI, which is going to be your amount, credit card details, etc. And then once you have all of these UI details captured, then um, how would you do the 3ds authentication, for example, right? So that is another use case that could be looked upon. Again, in these live streams, the idea is not to go into very detailed level of understanding of 3ds, or for that matter, how am I going to process this and store this in the backend. The idea is that when you work in teams which are geographically not co-located, right? Everybody is in a different geography, different time zone. How do you drive things in a collaborative way? How do you use technology? For instance, Jira, for instance, Miro. Miro is what you see on the screen right now, right? This is the free version that I typically use in my videos. So if you are a subscriber of my video, you would have seen this quite a few times. Okay, so are there any comments? Let me see if I can. There are no comments so far. Okay, cool. I was just trying to see if there was any question or so. If you have any questions, people who have joined the chat, right? If you have any questions, then do post it, and I will try to pick them up. Okay, so basically, see, use of these online collaboration tools like Jira and all, we really want to look into details, right? And I'll tell you one thing. I particularly feel that there are a lot of things in Jira which people don't use. A lot of functionalities within Jira that people don't know as well at times, right? And you figure out these things only when you play around with Jira. So we would want to explore some of those aspects as well into these live stream sessions. And outside of it, if there is anything else that you would want to see, then please leave a comment, and we will pick it up in the coming weeks. I also wanted to check, if people who are subscribers of these channels, who are members of this channel, do they want to participate with me in these live streams, in helping to create content, etc. If at all you guys have any sort of interest in doing that, then do get in touch with me. You can leave a message on LinkedIn, or you can leave a comment, and I will try to get back to you. Many people don't find my email address. I don't know if it's actually okay to post the email address every now and then in the comments. So what I have done is I have actually put the email address in the about section of the channel. So if you go to the about section of the channel, there is my email address. If you want to contact me, send me an email. I will respond back to you. Or the best way to also contact me is that you go to my LinkedIn and leave me a message, and I will get in touch with you. Okay, so I think that is pretty much it that I wanted to just kind of talk about. Basically, the idea was that what do we cover in the next few coming months, and a lot of comments are coming in around some topics in payments. For instance, people also want to see more content on Swift messaging. They want to see more content on ISO 20022 migration. So if there are any such specific requests, then I'm making a note of it. And some of these areas, even I have to do some more research to figure out what's happening, because this area is rapidly changing, right? So Swift themselves have done a lot of changes with respect to the timeline. So it's really sometimes not possible to keep up with the pace of how these implementations, how the Swift guidelines are being changing, and particularly if you are working on something which is different than Swift messaging implementation, right? So that's where the challenge is. So sometimes it's more about finding all that information, and then understanding, assimilating that information, and converting it into a format which all of you can understand, right? So that's the hard part, where it takes time. That's where the frequency of these videos being produced regularly sometimes goes down. But trust me, if I make a content and if I put it on the channel, I think it'll only be when it's worth presenting to all of you, right? When I personally feel that there is some value to it, only then I will make that content and put it out on the channel. So I think with that, I will take your leave. I hope to see you all once again next week. I will try to see if I can publish the timelines in advance about the live stream, and we will get at least a couple of people, if possible, to work on one of the use cases. So have a good weekend, everyone, and please stay connected, and thank you once again for all of your support. See you all. Thank you. Bye bye.